The doctor's voice was cold and final in the quiet room. "The child will not survive the night." Eleanor's hands, red and raw from a lifetime of scrubbing, flew to her mouth. A strangled cry was all she could manage. The grand bed in the master's chamber seemed to swallow her small boy, Thomas. His skin was the color of old parchment. Each breath was a shallow, terrible struggle. "There is nothing more to be done," the doctor stated, closing his bag with a definitive click. He did not look at the weeping maid. He addressed the house steward, Mr. Hodges, as if she were not there. "The fever has taken its course. Make the child comfortable. That is all." The heavy oak door closed behind them. Silence descended, broken only by Thomas's labored wheezing. Eleanor fell to her knees on the cold stone floor. She reached a trembling hand to brush a damp curl from her son's burning forehead. Her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. "My boy," she whispered, her voice breaking. "My sweet, sweet boy." She was just a lady's maid. She had no money for a better doctor. She had no name to command respect. She had nothing but the clothes on her back and a faith that now felt as fragile as glass. In this moment of absolute despair, she made a decision. She would not leave this room. She would pray until her voice gave out. She would weep until she had no tears left. For her child, she would move heaven itself, or she would die trying. Eleanor's life had been one of quiet service. For 15 years, she had worked in the great house of Lord Alistair. She polished silver until it shone like moonlight. She mended lace with stitches so fine they were invisible. Her world was one of order, humility, and simple devotion. Her greatest joy was her son, Thomas. He was a child of gentle spirit and bright eyes. He would sit in the kitchen corner, drawing pictures with a piece of charcoal on scrap paper. He drew birds and flowers and his mother's smiling face. His laughter was a secret treasure in the solemn stone halls. Eleanor's faith was as much a part of her as her own breath. Every morning, before the household stirred, she would kneel by her narrow cot. She would thank God for her work, for her health, and for the gift of her child. Her prayers were not grand petitions. They were whispers of gratitude for simple things. She taught Thomas to pray each night. His small hands would fold together. His voice was soft and sincere. "Thank you, God, for Mama, and for the sparrows outside my window." Their love was a sanctuary. It was built not on wealth or status, but on shared moments. A stolen biscuit from the cook, a walk in the kitchen garden at dusk, a story told by candlelight. Eleanor believed, with every fiber of her being, that God watched over the humble. She believed He saw their love. She believed He heard their prayers. This faith was her anchor. It was her only inheritance, and she would need every ounce of it now. The household moved on. A dying maid's child was a sad circumstance, but not an uncommon one. Lord Alistair was informed. He gave a curt nod from behind his newspaper. "See that she is not disturbed in her grief, but the chamber must be cleared by tomorrow. We have guests arriving." The order was delivered by Mr. Hodges. His face was a mask of polite efficiency. "You understand, Eleanor. We must think of the family's needs." Eleanor looked up from her vigil by the bed. Her eyes were hollow with exhaustion. "He is still breathing, sir. There is still hope." Mr. Hodges sighed, a sound of profound inconvenience. "The doctor has given his prognosis. Do not make this more difficult than it must be. Say your goodbyes." He turned and left her alone with the echo of his words. The injustice of it was a physical weight on her chest. She was nothing here. Her son's life was less important than the comfort of future guests. The cruelty of the world had never felt so absolute. Yet she held on to her faith. She clutched it like a lifeline in a stormy sea. She would not let go. She bent her head and continued to pray over Thomas's still form. She believed her story and his were ending in this lonely room. She could not know that a single forgotten object, a small silver locket she had long ago given up for lost, was even now changing hands miles away. And the man who held it was turning his carriage toward the manor with urgent, heaven-sent purpose. The candle guttered, its flame growing weak. Thomas had not stirred for hours. Eleanor's voice was hoarse from prayer. Her body ached from kneeling on the unforgiving stone. A deep, cold despair began to seep into her bones. It whispered that she was alone. It hissed that God was silent. Then she remembered a verse her own mother had taught her, a verse for the broken-hearted. She closed her eyes, pushing the darkness back with sheer will. "The Lord is close to the broken-hearted," she whispered into the stillness. She repeated it, her voice gaining a fragile strength. "He saves those who are crushed in spirit." It was not a shout of triumph. It was a declaration of war against the despair that surrounded her. She opened her eyes and looked at her son. She saw not just the sickness, but the boy she loved, the boy who loved sparrows and his mother's stories. A strange, quiet peace settled over her. It was not the peace of a miracle performed. It was the peace of a soul that had decided to trust, even in the deepest valley. She took Thomas's small, fevered hand in both of hers. "I will not stop believing," she said softly, "to him and to God. I will believe for both of us." She began to pray again. This time, her prayers were not frantic pleas. They were steady, confident whispers. They were the prayers of a mother planting her flag on the rock of a promise. The night was still dark. The outcome was still unknown. But in that moment, her faith was renewed. It was a small, defiant flame in the overwhelming darkness. And sometimes, a single flame is all it takes to light the way. A commotion echoed from the main hall below. The expected guests had arrived. Laughter and the clink of fine crystal floated up the grand staircase. The sound was a brutal contrast to the silent death watch in the chamber. Mr. Hodges entered once more. This time, 2 footmen accompanied him. Their faces were carefully blank. "Eleanor, you must come now. The family requires the room for Lady Catherine's maid. The child will be moved to the sick quarters in the morning." Moved, as if he were a piece of furniture. "No," Eleanor said, her voice trembling but clear. She stood, placing herself between the men and the bed. "You will not touch him. He stays with me." Mr. Hodges' patience vanished. "You forget your place. You are a servant. You do not give orders. You will obey, or you will be removed by force." The humiliation was complete. She was being treated as less than nothing in her darkest hour. Her love for her son was an inconvenience. Her grief was a disruption to the evening's entertainment. The footman took a step forward. Eleanor's faith wavered under the weight of such public cruelty. She looked from the steward's stern face to the footman's imposing forms. She was utterly powerless. But one person in that doorway had gone completely still. Lady Catherine's elderly traveling companion, a woman with wise, sorrowful eyes, had followed the noise, and what she saw in Eleanor's defiant, heartbroken face had just shattered a silence she had kept for 19 years. The footmen retreated at a sharp signal from the elderly woman. Mr. Hodges, confused, followed them out. The door closed, leaving Eleanor alone once more. The brief confrontation had drained her last reserve of strength. She collapsed back onto her knees, her body shaking with sobs she could no longer contain. The last flicker of hope was dying. She turned her face toward the ceiling, her tears falling freely. "Oh, God!" she cried out, her voice raw and broken. "My Father in heaven, hear me now. I have nothing left to give. I am on my knees. I am begging you. Do you see my child? Do you see his suffering? I am only a maid. I have no wealth, no influence, no voice in this world. But you are the God of the helpless. You are the defender of the fatherless. I am placing my son, my precious Thomas, into your hands. I cannot save him, but you can. I believe you can. If it is your will, spare his life. Let him live. Let him know your mercy. Do not let my faith be in vain. I trust you. Even now, I trust you. Please, God, please." She buried her face in the coverlet, her shoulders heaving. Her prayer hung in the air, a sacred and desperate offering. It was the total surrender of a mother's heart. It was the moment she gave up all control. And in that moment of absolute vulnerability, a gentle knock sounded at the chamber door. The door opened slowly. It was not Mr. Hodges. The elderly woman from the hallway entered, her expression one of profound urgency. Behind her stood a tall, distinguished gentleman with kind eyes and a medical bag. He was not the county doctor. His bearing spoke of London and great learning. "This is Dr. Everett," the woman said softly. "He has come to see the boy." Eleanor could only stare, speechless. Dr. Everett moved to the bedside with quiet authority. He examined Thomas with a careful, gentle touch. He listened to his chest. He felt his pulse. His brow was furrowed in concentration. The elderly woman approached Eleanor. She knelt beside her, taking her chapped hands. Her eyes glistened with tears. "My dear girl," she whispered, "forgive me. Forgive my long silence." From the folds of her gown, she produced a small, tarnished silver locket. It was the very one Eleanor had lost in the woods as a young woman. A lifetime ago, she opened the locket. Inside was a tiny, faded portrait of a young Eleanor. "I found this locket years ago," the woman said. "I have carried it, searching for its owner, ever since. When I saw your face tonight, I knew. God led me here." Dr. Everett looked up, his face alight with a miraculous certainty. "The fever is severe, but there is a new treatment. I have the medicine in my bag. There is hope." But the locket was only the beginning. What the woman now revealed about Eleanor's own past, a secret buried since her birth, would change not only her destiny, but the fate of every person in that house. Dr. Everett worked through the night. The new medicine, a rare and costly extract, fought the fever like a divine army. By dawn, Thomas's breathing had eased. His skin grew cool to the touch. He slept a natural, a peaceful sleep. The miracle was real and tangible in the quiet room. But God was not finished. The elderly woman, through tears of joy, revealed herself as Lady Helena, the long-lost sister of Lord Alistair. She had been sent away in her youth after a family scandal. The locket contained a portrait of Eleanor's mother, who had been Lady Helena's dearest friend and maid. In her will, she had named Eleanor, her secret daughter, as her true heir. The revelation echoed through the manor like a thunderclap. Lord Alistair, confronted with the proof and his sister's testimony, was humbled. Eleanor was not a mere servant. She was family. She was an heiress in her own right. Thomas awoke, weak but smiling. "Mama," he whispered. It was the sweetest sound Eleanor had ever heard. She held him, weeping tears of pure gratitude. She had a family. No, she had a future. Her son had his life. God had walked through the door in the form of a forgotten locket, a persistent prayer, and a love that would not let go. He had lifted the humble maid and exalted her faith for all to see. The scripture says, "He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap." He did that for Eleanor. He can do that for you. Have you ever held on to a single thread of faith and watched God weave a miracle? Share your story in the comments below. Tell me where in the world you are watching from today. If this story of a mother's unwavering faith touched your heart, please subscribe to Faith and Miracles. Leave your like below as a testament that you believe in God's perfect timing. Every story on this channel is a reminder that He hears the cry of the humble. The new stories of hope and divine intervention arrive every single week, only for those who keep the faith.